Joining us now is Ojiokpe with stories trending around the world.
Yeah,
Hello,
What's going on? I know, that was so mischievous. I think you wanted to try to mispronounce my last name. Good morning, Dr. Patty. How are you?
I'm good.
Good morning, Oji. How are you today?
Leila.
Great
How
to
are
see you as usual.
Great. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending today in Nigeria. On Monday, just hours before President Muhammadu Buhari delivered his address to the nation, a version full of errors was already circulating on social media. However, the version that was read by the president was in some ways different from the draft that was in circulation. With the hashtag presidential address, several Twitter users decried the live broadcast, insinuating that it was a pre-recorded broadcast. Others even posted videos where they read along with the president as he made his speech. Let's take some reactions. One user, Mazi, wrote, "Fellow Nigerians, President Muhammadu Buhari's presidential address today was leaked. We read the news on the timeline before 8 o'clock broadcast. I just want to tell you that the president isn't aware. No one would lose his or her job for this high-level breach of trust and ethics." Another user, Dr. Mato, posted a video of himself with the caption, "I was reading alongside the president. Lockdown continues till May 2nd. Hashtag presidential address. Hashtag lockdown end." Our final tweet is from Fapi, who wrote, "In all sane climb, the speech of the president shouldn't be seen online until after the broadcast. This man is the #1 citizen of the Republic and should be given that respect. Sometimes I ask questions on the qualifications of the president's media aides."
Well, I tried to comment on this earlier on before you came, and I said very clearly that somebody dropped the ball. There must have been some kind of communication problem, because usually when you prepare a speech for a president,
because you were once a media aide, so
somebody signs off on it.
Yes.
It was part of my job to sign off on the final copy. Right. And nobody, when I was in that office, would release a copy except I did so. And what we usually did was to release the copy either towards the end of the speech or in the middle of the speech. Because the president, even if, as he's reading, could make notes, he could change things, because it is his speech.
Correct.
It's not your speech. So the president can change his mind midway. So you follow him. You know, there will be somebody who will be on standby who will be double-checking the speech. If the president adds anything, you write it in. You correct it immediately. So what goes out at the end of the day is exactly what the president delivers. I know it's a very difficult job, but as I said, somebody dropped the ball, and that can be investigated. And the thing we can say is that, well, in the future, that should not happen again. Because if you compare the draft that leaked with the original copy, the draft had maybe 44 paragraphs. They even got the paragraph wrong.
Correct.
Now, the final copy that came out had 54 paragraphs. So let's say it's a question of administrative error, and they will take their lessons from it. But in terms of the substance of the speech itself, which is what is important, apart from the procedure, the protocols, you know, the substance is essentially the same.
Yes.
And we are trying to dissect it. You know,
yes.
The president giving a situation report, the president offering guidelines, the president, you know, commending people who have been involved in the process, from the frontline health workers to the private sector to traditional rulers and others who have made a contribution.
Right.
When Ifeni was here, we tried to look at some of the omissions in the speech in terms of public expectations and in terms of public reactions. But it is at least good that, you know, we see the president every 2 weeks leading the process and talking to Nigerians. That in itself is a very good development.
Yes.
And those who have been criticizing the president that he seems unconcerned cannot say so, because to a very large extent,
like he has taken charge.
He has taken charge of the process. And I think that that's what we should focus on. We need not split hairs over a draft escaped, the final copy is not. That's just something that went wrong in terms of the management of the process.
Could it have been a possible hack, though, as well?
That's another question, like a breach of security.
How can
but
somebody hack the president's speech?
They said that it was from the probably members of the presidential task force that was part of the people that wrote the speech as well. So
no. Look, there's a process in place. Look, somebody will sign off on the president's speech. If they don't have that, then they should find somebody who signs off. Somebody must be responsible for
draft.
it. We're talking of the president of the country.
Yes.
Look,
so clearly the process is
there's
weak.
No way the copy must escape. How?
So we don't know how
what we're looking at is a weak system. Really and truly, what we're looking at is a weak system.
No, the presidency of Nigeria is not a weak system.
It's not a weak system, and not the presidency of Nigeria, but the structure that we're seeing with regards to this situation where the ball was dropped means that there was weakness along the way. And it could have been a hack, is a question I'm asking. Could it have been a possible hack?
It could not have been a hack. Somebody made a mistake. What kind of nonsense hack is that? You know, when a draft speech is written, it goes through a certain process. Then the president looks at it, he makes input, and then you don't release it until the president, himself has taken charge.
Well, there should be a clear investigation.
I don't want any explanation that doesn't make sense.
There should be a clear investigation.
Because that was my job at a point.
Very good.
We know.
Still in Nigeria, following the announcement of the index COVID-19 case reported by Nigeria's Center for Disease Control in Bayelsa State, the governor of the state, Duyo Diri, on Monday announced a one-week stay-at-home order for residents in the state. The governor also banned all interstate travel, with the exception of travelers entering the state with a valid resident permit. Let's take a look at this video before we come back for a discussion.
If you are a Rivers man, you must have a permit from the Rivers State government asking you to come into Bayelsa. You show them that permit, they will allow you to come. If you are from Delta, you will have a permit from the Delta State government. I just spoke with Okoa. When you have that permit, we will allow you to come in. Otherwise, go back to your different destinations for now. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if there's anything in the Nigerian constitution that backs this announcement that he's just...
No, we're in a very extraordinary situation. I mean, the constitution of Nigeria allows government in situations of public health crisis to act in the national interest and to take extraordinary measures. And, that position, I think is in section 14, is further supported by, not section 14, but that position is further supported by section 305 of the Constitution, which even allows the president to exercise emergency powers. And what we are facing with COVID-19 is an emergency. That's why the Nigerian Governors Forum recommended to the president of Nigeria that interstate travel should be banned, because it has been observed by the experts that community transmission is the biggest threat that we now face. And government has a responsibility to take whatever step to make sure that people are not put at risk. So the governor may be right, or he's right, but the one I don't understand is this corona permit. The first time I heard of a Koro permit, it was a policeman. Yeah, it was a policeman that told me. He asked for my Koro permit. So now it's interesting to see a governor also talking about Koro permit.
I don't know if it's Koro.
I don't know what that Koro permit looks like, but when I gave the policeman a letter from Arise News, he said, yes, this is a Koro permit.
But Dr. Mati, how practical is that anyways? What about people that are living in Bayelsa State but are from Delta State? So what happens to them if they are caught entering the state? What's going to happen to them? I mean,
well, you are even going too far. Here in Lagos,
is this going to work?
Here in Lagos, Ogun and Lagos states, they are contiguous. There are people living in Baga. A part of Baga is in Lagos State. A part of Baga is in Ogun State. And the two states have really merged. And these people, they work in Lagos. They do their business in Lagos. But in the evenings, they will go to Ogun State to sleep. So I really don't know. I mean, there are parts of Ogun State where the living room...
practical way of making this happen.
There are parts of Ogun State where the living room is in Lagos State. The other part of the building is in Ogun State. So how do those people cope? But I think what is more important is that government wants to prevent community transmission. And the people must support government in making the necessary sacrifice. Stay at home. Just stay where you are. People should stop going about like smallpox.
Yeah, but the essential services, Dr. Batty, what about people
essential services aside?
Yeah, people that have to go to another state to go.
Essential services aside, they've already been excluded. Essential services is already aside. For everybody else, just stay where you are, you know?
But then there's issues that would come with this
But the governor was talking about permits from your state government.
Yes,
now that will create another form of confusion. You know, I know people who are on essential services, they can get Kuru permits. You know, I have it.
Dr. Batty, it's not called Kuru permit. I've never heard of that.
That's what the policeman told me.
You made it up.
No, I didn't make it up. No. I'm telling you the truth. No.
Okay. Well, let's take our final story, shall we? Finally, in Nigeria, Aisha Kyari, the daughter of Abba Kyari, late Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, has asked her father's critics to let those mourning him to do so in peace. On Monday, Aisha took to her Instagram story to pour out her mind after mixed reactions from many Nigerians trailed her father's death. Her first post read, My daddy, Abba Kyari, is gone. Evil ones still won't shut up. You all claimed he was the root of your problems when he was alive. Now he's gone. Surely all your problems died with him. Her second post read, Allow us that love him mourn him in peace. And dear Lola Omotayo and co, that were so curious about his whereabouts, I hope now that you know exactly where he is, you're sleeping better at night.
Well, an emotional response, and to be honest with you, rightfully so, quite frankly, because their family have had a lot of pressure from the public since the passing of Malam Abba Kyari. So I can understand why she would get to a point where, quite frankly, she's at breaking point and she felt the need to say something to address people. You have to be able to respect the dead, irrespective of your political beliefs, irrespective of anything. The dead is the dead. If you can't respect the dead, then just instead keep your mouth shut. It's better than becoming a problem for other people that are trying to grieve.
Absolutely. And she called out Lola Omotayo, who is Peter Okoye's wife, correct? Yes. And apparently she had been going on Twitter and asking where, you know, the...
like a lot of people have been doing.
I don't want to talk about persons and their individual responses. People will insist that they have the right to their own opinions. But what is very clear is that Malam Abba Kyari was controversial in life and has also been controversial in death. And a lot of people on both sides of the aisle have been, you know, very effusive with their responses. But what I have seen in the last few days is that people who do not like him, who hold him responsible for all of Nigeria's problems, they've been acting almost in an organized manner to say all kinds of negative things about him. But those who know him and who admire him, you know, have also been countering. The lesson of which is all of this. You know, Malam Abba Kyari has played his part in the course of a long career within the public space. But it would be wrong to make him the fall guy for whatever may be the errors or omissions of the Buhari administration. Right. Because long after Abba Kyari, Nigeria will still be there. The Buhari administration is still there. At the end of the day, when a proper accounting is done, it will not be because of Abba Kyari. The buck will stop at the president's table. And I think people should just stop being emotional and stop blackmailing the dead.
Very well said. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace.
Yes, thank you very much for What's Trending today, OG, and we will see you tomorrow.